So right now, there is just one potential area of concern. That is a tornado warning for just a sliver of northern Camden County, just east of I-95, and then southeastern Glynn County. This does not technically include Brunswick. The tornado warning box in the area of concern will be to the south and west of Brunswick as this cell kind of tracks up. And there it is. We have a new tornado warning that has now been issued. This looks like it includes Jekyll Island. This was that cell that I just told you about. Right now, we're going to head over to Mike and Garrett.
Yeah, good call on that, Corey. Good diagnosis. We've been talking about this the last few minutes. We were talking about it as long as 10 minutes ago, Corey. We were about how those offshore cells looked impressive, and now Corey is zooming in. This is where the new tornado warning is in effect. Arguably, the earlier one, that storm has been cut off, and that circulation has weakened a great deal. And this now is the storm to watch. And this is going to make a run at Brunswick, more than likely. This is exactly where Corey was just minutes ago. We gave you the first alert way before the tornado warning was even issued. As this moves to the northwest, it's got Brunswick written all over it, so to speak. This is the circulation right here. Corey's going to take that to the northwest. He's got to broaden it a little bit because it's harder to track when you're in that close, and so he's taking it now. Looks like it would be very close to Brunswick between 7:50 and 8 o'clock, but Jekyll Island at 7:53, Garrett. And a minute later, you're looking at some of the areas in the immediate area right around Jekyll Island.
Yeah, so we're looking at First Alert Doppler HD, querying the winds to see what they're doing in there, and just a little bit aloft there with the radar beam intersecting this storm about just to the east of Cumberland Island. We're seeing 50 to 60 mile per hour winds there with that bright shading, and this as we go into Brunswick 8:03. So, and it could even thread the needle a little bit in some of the marshy and watery ways into Brunswick there and kind of go past the southern tip of Jekyll Island.
That's critical because I believe what you're thinking there is that allows it to stay as a water spout a little bit longer, which makes it a threat as a tornado into land, right?
Yeah, and so you can see in between.
It's a good call.
Actually, Corey, can we turn the radar off for just a second?
Yep, good
and we'll
idea.
show you what we're talking about. So remember this spot right here.
Here's our circulation.
Okay, and see, look at all that water. There's the southern tip of Jekyll. And it moves just to the north, which, by the way, at 10 a.m., the City of Lanier Bridge closes.
Right. We'll be, that was the last report was 10 a.m. That may be moved up a little bit.
Correct. Yeah. So this is what we're talking about right there. That water right there, just a little bit of land interaction there.
And let's take a look at First Alert Storm Analyst. If you can pop that up, Corey. We've got this I think we've got it centered just about right to show this circulation and that tornado. Remember, this is rain here. This is the possible tornado. It would be a water spout now. Could come ashore as a tornado. Boy, that's looking pretty sharp, Garrett. And here it is. This is velocity. So this is how heavy it's raining, and that's even become more intense.
Yeah,
so
that purple.
So that's the heavy rainfall, blinding rain as these move in. In tropical systems, the tornadoes move very quickly, and then this is the velocities or the wind. So First Alert Storm Analyst really gives us a good idea. Let's just zoom in to see where that's going to hit. And I think you're right, Gary, you're right on. That's going to kind of try to thread the needle there on the edge of Jekyll Island and then right up into potentially downtown Brunswick.
And you can see some updates here coming in on our First Alert Storm Analyst here. The velocity data, as Mike mentioned, moving off. And again, when you're over the ocean, you don't have that much friction. Typically, those water spouts are a little bit easier to hang on. And if it stays over that water, then we could, try to get it in a little bit farther to the north and west. Typically, the tropical tornadoes are pretty quick. They go up and down. They move pretty quick. And then now this could maybe linger just a bit. And ahead
look
of that,
at that.
Mike,
Yeah, this is just popped within the last couple of minutes. Within the tornado warning, there appears to be another cell just to the north-northwest. So they're trailing each other, chasing each other, if you will. That's over Jekyll Island, Corey?
Over Jekyll Island.
Okay, so that cell has just intensified. We may have twin cells that likely do have twin cells that are rotating right now, moving into the Brunswick area. Remember, lowest part of the building that you are in, away from windows, get out of mobile homes, do not get into an automobile. You won't be able to see this tornado coming for very far in advance. You'll hear a loud roar, and you've got seconds to take action and to take cover. We're giving you that notice right now. Brunswick, this lead cell now makes Brunswick maybe a little bit earlier, followed by the reason that the tornado warning was issued, which would be we headed around 8 to 8:03 into Brunswick.
Yeah, so Jekyll Island first. There's Brunswick proper on both sides. Again, classic radar you used to see in the wind data here on the right side of the same picture. And there is the gusty winds there that we were seeing there that is with the actual tornado warning. And then that one that Mike was mentioning right about here, I would say. Here,
right, exactly. I think where you see just that little bit of enhancement there in the wind. Right?
Southern tip of Jekyll, and then move it in. There's Brunswick here. Again, there's the classic radar on the left. That would be at very least some very heavy rain and some gusty wind. winds and the potential for this one to start rotating a little
And we've
bit.
just had another tornado warning issued, Garrett, it looks to me. It looks like a second one, Corey, for parts of Camden and Glynn County, or is that an old
This is
one?
a tornado warning issued for the stronger rotation just off the coast in northern Cumberland Island headed to Jekyll Island. So that's the one.
Is that the lead one?
Yeah, that's the first one we were talking about.
Okay,
here. Just
so-
getting some information for that.
So this potential tornado will be, and it would be a waterspout now, will be onshore within just minutes, Garrett, the way it looks.
Yeah, and so they're saying this is heading to Jekyll Island, our friends and colleagues at the National Weather Service in Jacksonville. So this is going to be there. If you're on the southern tip of Jekyll, this is where we're concerned about for this one racing off the Atlantic Ocean. You're already seeing, it's going to be hard to see. Don't look out the window here if you're looking at the eastern side of Jekyll. But this is moving at, what, 30, 40 miles per hour,
Solid
if
30
not
or 40,
more.
yeah.
And then we're also tracking that lead cell here that developed after that. And it's raining heavily over Brunswick anyway, so you're not going to see this there either if it were to wrap up pretty quick.
All right, let's track both of those. Go back to traditional radar, our First Alert Doppler HD, Corey, and track first the southern one that appears the most intense, the tightest circulation now moving into Jekyll Island. Here they are. And then let's track that little second one that has formed as well. And by the way, this just off the corner there is Idalia's eye is pretty clearly making landfall. But here are those two cells, and they're a little more because this is not as doesn't quite have the resolution as First Alert Storm Analyst that we saw just a minute ago. It's not as easy to see, but clearly that's the reason for the first tornado warning was issued, the original tornado warning, and then just north of there is the second cell. So Corey's going to take that to the northwest, and these are the arrival times for this circulation, which means a possible tornado for Jekyll Island in 4 minutes, Garrett, at 7:51, 8 o'clock straight up, back landing, very part of Brunswick. 2 minutes later, it's 8:02 in Brunswick. We were hitting 8:03 just a second ago, so it's that 8 o'clock hour. You've got maybe 10 or 15 minutes, maybe, if that long. Dock Junction at 8:07, and I say maybe that long because there appears to be another circulation to the north of the primary circulation that we're tracking on that south end. And now Corey's going to take that second circulation and time that because that's going to up the times here, you guys. This is the lead cell that appears to be rotating into Brunswick now at 7:54. That's just 7 minutes away. You're already getting this blinding rain, as Garrett talked about. You're likely seeing and hearing some wind. But the tornado would be into your area in just the next 4 to 5, 7 minutes. Dock Junction at 7:59, Glencoe at 8:01, and Sterling at about 8:08.
Just in from the National Hurricane Center as well, we do have a landfall of this
confirmed.
major hurricane for Idalia as a Category 3, the way it stands right now, in the Florida Big Bend. So officially from the Hurricane
there we go.
Center, a landfall here today.
Look at that eye wall.
Yeah, it's
with
in there.
lightning.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they put the timing about 3 minutes ago at 7:45.
Which they waited for the core
Yeah.
of the eye to get there because the outer edge was there. We were talking about that a half hour to 45 minutes ago. But it's official now. It's a landfall. That's, Garrett and Corey, that's the second major Florida hurricane landfall in less than a year. Ian, Cat 4, hit the southwest coast of Florida in Fort Myers. Fort Myers Beach hit so hard in the end of September last year, and now a Category 3 hurricane making landfall in the Big Bend, almost a Cat 4. It was a Cat 4 just offshore. So let's think about this. If we go back to 2017, Irma hit the Keys as a Cat 3 hurricane, made landfall as a Cat 3, I believe, at least a Cat 3. That's a major hurricane. We had last year, Ian hit the southwest coast, Category 4, and now Category 3 has made landfall in the Big Bend. That's 3 major hurricanes hitting Florida within just a few years, in a matter of about 6 years or so. And we've talked about it before. It's a sparsely populated area, but obviously a major hit. And the concern now is that it will take a while to wind down, and that we're going to have a very powerful tropical system, hurricane, all the way into our viewing area, parts of Georgia and Florida. And in fact, I think you have it on your phone right now, the statement issued by the National Weather Service, and we think it's a wise statement. They may issue extreme wind warning for areas near and west of Interstate 75.
Yeah, so this is for the Sewanee area here, which we'll see what happens in terms of the direction of the eye wall. The National Weather Service in Jacksonville does anticipate issuing that extreme wind warning. So basically, they came up with this a couple of years ago.
Well, actually, it was
after-
2004 when Charlie roared into Orlando.
So this is basically like you're in a tornado. Basically, and it's a large-scale warning, and it's basically for the eye wall, essentially, and the extreme winds there. So they expect them to issue this for the Suwannee Valley, and they ask that you abandon mobile homes.
Which we've been talking about for a while.
And get to a sturdy structure. Now's the time to do that before that eye wall gets to your area, and then you can't go anywhere. So that's the ask.
Such a dangerous part of the storm and a dangerous place to be would be a mobile home. So we are asking you near Lake City and the west on I-10 then into Suwannee County and nearby areas that now's the time to make that decision and get out.
And if for some reason you can't and you have to stay there, then if that warning, which it most likely will, comes out, maybe you have a bicycle helmet, maybe you have a mattress you can put up against somewhere where you're sitting during that moment of the intense wind. So that's one of the preparedness steps you can do if there's no way for you to move locations if you're in one of those not sturdy structures.
Right, something that's less sturdy. It could be a manufactured home, possibly, especially older homes. And if in a mobile home we want you to get out, you want to protect your head and face, as you mentioned. A bicycle helmet will sometimes work. Protecting yourself with the pillow blankets. Get into an interior hallway. If you've got a bathroom, if it's a home, it's a little bit bigger, and you have a bathroom, then the bathtub's the best place to be. And that is a concern, genuine concern now from near Lake City west on I-10. Of immediate concern in the next few minutes, Garrett, is this tornado warning that's in effect for Brunswick and nearby areas. Corey, that cell still looks pretty impressive, doesn't it?
Yeah, Mike, we're watching especially kind of the back edges of these little cells. There is a lot of heavy rain. This is torrential rain in Brunswick and Dock Junction. And we've been watching the threat for water spouts or tornadoes for about the last half hour or so. And this tornado warning is until 8:15 for Glynn County. The potentially tornadic parts of the storm are on the edges of the box here from Jekyll Island up to Brunswick and just east of downtown Brunswick. Okay, and in fact, they kind of slivered or shaved or narrowed down that tornado warning box. You see it's flashing on the screen now, and it's a little bit smaller. So this is radar indicated. We do not have a confirmed tornado in this, but we've been watching these for a while, and they have shown signs of potentially producing tornadoes. So the movement of this is to the north and to the northwest at about 40 miles per hour. These are moving very quickly. It's still raining very heavily in Jekyll Island. So right now I'm going to switch from the normal traditional radar, from the greens to the oranges and reds to the wind, and this will show us the potential where circulation could be. And I see one spot that sticks out to me right now. This is just offshore Jekyll Island. You see the peach coloring here? That's potentially very high wind. And then it's right next to the darker shades of red right there. So we're watching that area. There may also be some areas of rotation or circulation kind of mixed in here. It's really hard for me to pick out at this one moment. West of St. Simon's Island, on the other side of the water, there is Brunswick. And this is the area right here, basically from central Jekyll Island. There's this area to watch of potential circulation, which this looks to be the strongest that I've seen this morning over the last several hours. The peach coloring here, right under the D in Jekyll Island, is just offshore. This is going to be moving onshore within the next just few minutes as this is moving up to the northwest around 40 miles per hour. So I'm gonna switch this back to radar briefly and kind of get a motion here. Actually, that wind, Mike, that wind isn't really syncing up with the radar right now. Maybe the wind is just a little behind, but that looks like it could be a potential waterspout or tornado just offshore Jekyll Island.
Yeah, Jekyll Island needs to be in a place of shelter, right? You need to be taking your tornado protocols and safety, following your safety guidelines right now, because Garrett, that looks to be right on Jekyll Island, headed toward Brunswick.
Yeah, and if those pixels were to stay accurate, that's picking up 70-mile-an-hour winds right now. There's 73 detected on First Alert Doppler HD. So this is moving in. We were just looking at some webcams here on St. Simon's Island. We're going to try to effort those to get up and make them available to show just what the scene is there. That's just to the north of this circulation, but Jekyll Island here. There's St. Simon's. There's Jekyll Island. There comes that likely moving on shore right about now If it were to be on the ground, and since it's over the ocean right now, we can't see if there's any debris there since it's over the water. So
Good point,
we'll have
yeah.
to wait and see if when it goes over to land to see if any debris is lofted from a tornado that's touching the ground there and creating debris. So 801 around Seaside Course area there, looks like on St.
And we have
Simons.
looks like we have a new tornado warning, y'all.
New tornado for Glynn County.
Updated for Glynn
Yeah.
County, actually. So that's what we've been tracking.
Yeah.
And we are in street level mapping here. There's Creedle Drive, Highway 17 into Brunswick, Sea Island Causeway, and there's St. Simon's Island. This looks like it's going to move right very near Jekyll Island and maybe just a tad bit south of St. Simon's Island maybe, and then it's into Brunswick. And it does look like a weak circulation moving into Brunswick right now, perhaps, Corey?
Yeah, Mike.
That lead cell, that's that lead cell. It's a little fuzzy on this in this particular instance. It's not as clear as the circulation to the south and east, but that might be something there. Getting ready to move into downtown Brunswick.
Traffic camera. Pull up
Okay.
traffic,
We have a traffic
computer,
camera there.
traffic computer, Max 3. We have a webcam out of St. Simon's that right now I think is looking to the southeast from St. Simon's. So this would be, Mike, where it is. Maybe.
Great shot.
This
that
is
is a
St.
great
Simon's
shot.
Island. So we're trying to
So
see.
this is looking south. Did Maritza found
Yes,
this, I
and this
assume?
camera does move, so it will move here in a second. I can't tell if this is the same cell or not.
So this is St. Simon's Island looking southeast, I would say.
Yes.
Simon's Island.
Okay,
What is that right there?
Trevor says this
Yeah.
does include St. Simon's Island.
Is that?
I can't tell if that's a ship here on the corner.
We'll wait till that camera goes back.
So let's go back to Max 1, and I'll show you the boxes here. Let's
Okay.
go back to Max 1 quickly, just to show you the polygons.
Yep.
There are 2 polygons there.
That's the new tornado.
There is a new tornado
Okay.
warning. It includes St. Simon's Island, like Trevor just said. Let's go back to Max 3. Let's go back to the webcam.
This is, thank you, Maritza, for finding this. Of course, it's buffering just a little bit.
There it is. Okay.
So-
Can
Can we make that bigger?
Yeah, can you
Okay.
expand that, Maritza? Okay, Maritza's going to try. This is rain coming in right here, you guys. See the change in texture of the ocean? That's very heavy rain. This could be the water spout. We can't confirm it. We don't know it for sure, but it's suspicious. It
Move back
matches
to the
up
northeast.
with radar.
That's northeast now, or east.
Okay, now we're looking more east. And Maritza's trying to maneuver the camera and making it a little bit larger here for us, which looks like it's
I cannot.
It's kind of
bigger.
hard.
Okay, and Maritza says can't really make it much bigger. So our goal now is just to get that look back to the southwest a little bit.
Cameras. They're moving the cameras.
Right, they moved the cameras, Maritza.
That looks
Yeah.
like Jekyll Island to me. You see where the land begins again.
Okay.
That looks like
That's
Jekyll Island.
So, okay, so that's a sturdy structure there. That's not
Yeah,
the water
yeah.
spout. Yep.
Yeah, this is Jekyll Island.
That may be.
What we're looking from Jekyll Island, Corey.
No,
From St. Simon's.
I'm
no,
sorry.
we're looking from St.
Yes.
That looks like a tornado to me. I
Yes.
wish they would switch the camera back.
Right.
This is one of those, rotates around so you can see the beach.
Yeah, on nice days, this is typically meant just to kind of advertise for.
I would say that's what we need to be looking at once it moves back to the southeast. This is threading the needle between Jekyll and St. Simon's now. So the northern end of Jekyll is right where that rotation is.
Go ahead, Corey.
Yeah.
This looks like Jekyll Island. I'm guessing, but if we're
Yes,
looking
that's
from
right.
St.
We're
This
looking-
is land. This
Yeah.
is land right here.
That's Jekyll. We're looking from.
And that's a potential tornado.
Okay. And that's just that comes in on our webcams. That's a commercial. There's
Let's go
nothing
back
we can
to
do
Max
about that.
1. Let's go back to Max 1. We have a little bit of a hook echo there.
Yeah.
Just kind of that little curve. That's lifting right up to, it looks almost right up to St. Simon's Island.
Right. So now this is taking a little bit of either a north turn, probably a north turn actually. It's probably turned a little to the right in this case. It's moving north, which takes Brunswick potentially maybe a little bit off the hook, by the way. We've been worried about Brunswick and talking about this. It's becoming more of a Jekyll Island, St. Simon's Island thing, right, Corey?
Yeah, I would say so, Mike. It's
Okay.
Go ahead, Garrett.
No, go ahead, Corey. I'm just saying, let's get back to this webcam. We got it back up.
Okay, looks like we're going to get a better shot of it as once it pivots back there. Okay.
To the right of this camera angle.
Yeah,
is
it's
where
right
it
over
would be.
here.
It looked like it was maybe trying to tornado, and then we lost it in the view there as it pushed at least out of the camera view. So maybe it still has a bit of a westerly component to the north and northwest.
Northwest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see if this goes back.
That's
A slightly
that's-
wider view. Boy, we'd like to go right, wouldn't we?
I know.
A little south
Wish we
would be
could
nice.
control that one.
We can't control this camera. It's at its own whim. It's designed to kind of pan the beach. It's meant for commercial purposes, really, more than anything else, not for weather purposes. So we're grabbing it now to try to see what we can get.
So this is going to be, if you're looking about the location, this is the northern tip of Jekyll Island that rotation would be on, and in between that, the waterway there between Jekyll and St. Simons. Let's go back to Max 1, unless it's showing up.
She just got it reconnected, Maritza did, it looks like.
At the other ones, if there's anything good.
Okay.
There's some stuff. Well, no, that's a bird.
Okay, let's go back to Max 1 real quick, and then let us know, Maritza, if you see it. Okay, so here we are, St. Simons Island, Brunswick up here, and this is Jekyll. So this is where it's going right now, if it is a water spout. And what are the winds showing right now, Corey? Looking at those winds.
That's still impressive.
Still very
Moving
intense.
right over St. Simons Island.
Looks like a tornado to me.
Yeah. Okay, let's take maybe a look at the debris. It might not have debris yet. That might be worth looking at. Or no, not really.
No.
So what we're looking at here for our viewers is this is a debris tracker. This literally shows us when pieces of debris, perhaps, or parts of land, could be trees, are being lofted into the atmosphere. We're not seeing that at the moment, but that could happen at any time if this is a tornado, if a water spout that's turning into a tornado.
Yeah, and so we want to reset here just for a second, since we're at the top of the hour here at 8 a.m. You're watching live coverage of a tornado warning for Glynn County here on CBS 47 and Fox 30 Action News Jax. And this is where we are in St. Simons Island and Jekyll Island, what we believe could be a water spout or a tornado. We've seen some indications on some webcams that, Mike, we may have something that is of consequence here.
Yeah, and Maritza, just yell out to us if you see get one of those webcams that actually can get a good shot again of the storm.
Yeah, there's a shot here.
Okay, let's take a look. Let's bring up the traffic computer. Okay, and here it is. It is frozen for the moment, but there it comes into view. You're looking again across to Jekyll Island.
Yeah,
and
that's east now.
That's about due east, I would say, right?
So I would say probably the circulation is out of this camera view.
It might be too far north
or too far south. With the
from this camera?
This camera, yeah, too far
from
north.
This camera,
yeah.
Okay.
So I think probably it's out of the view of this because it hasn't gone around.
This particular view here, yeah.
So we had it, we looked at it, and I don't know if we can go back and rack some video somehow of us doing that, but it looked like there was something there, at least as it approached.
Right, very suspicious, as Corey said, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and track this. Corey,
back to Max 1.
Yeah, there you go. It's moving. It appears to us to be moving north-northwest now. We may have a tornado or at least a water spout.
First, let's go street level.
Okay,
where it is right now.
Okay, so we're going to go into not a whole lot of streets here, to be honest with you. Old Seaside Road. There's more now that we're into St. Simons Island, St. Andrews, Demere Road, Arthur J. Moore Drive, Blascarm Street, Sea Island Road. Those are all areas, if you live anywhere near where you see these, we're going to hang here for just a minute. We have a dangerous tornado potentially on the ground, so we'll get right to the news desk in a second. But this possible tornado is moving northbound. We need people to take this very seriously in St. Simons Island and nearby areas. Possible tornado now moving northbound just to the east of the Brunswick area following a landfall of the hurricane at 7:50 this morning on the opposite coast. In the northwest Big Bend, this is moving into focus by the sea at 8:04, Epworth Park at 8:06, Altima Park at 8:10, Federal Law Enforcement Training Center neighborhood at 8:12. If you recognize any of those places, you need to be in a place of shelter immediately. This is a fast-moving waterspout and possible tornado. Now back to the news desk.
Very important information, that tornado warning for the last half hour or so. Welcome everyone to Action News Jax this morning. I'm Phil Amato. We'll have nonstop coverage all day today until Hurricane Idalia is no longer a threat.
And I'm Chandler Morgan. We have a team of First Alert meteorologists, of course, tracking any threats that come to our area. We told you that Hurricane Idalia did make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane. We're tracking this storm and every single threat in our area. We have a team of a First Alert meteorologists here with us. Chief Meteorologist Mike Burrish and First Alert Meteorologist Garrett Biedenbaugh and First Alert Meteorologist Corey Sima, Maritza Ross, Trevor Gibbs, also here tracking the storm minute by minute. But our team coverage continues with our reporters here who are out in the field. Our Ben Becker is live this morning in Crystal River. And of course, we also have Jake Stofan coming up in St. Mary's, and Robert is out in Lake City. So that is a look at where we're going to be taking you here this hour, of course, as Idalia just made landfall. And we're starting to see some of those effects,
All right,
too.
right now, let's go out to Ben, see what's going on now in Crystal River. Ben, you've been out there for the last 3 or 4 hours now. What do you see?
Yeah, it's been all sorts of weather out here, guys. I mean, it started off calm, then it got really wild, it chilled out again, and then right now, as you know, we had landfall in about the last 20 minutes or so north of here, quite a bit, but still in the Big Bend. Here, you can see the river here behind me flooding out quite a bit over the seawall. We had to move off there a little bit. We were by the water for most of the morning, but now we've made our way here to the boat ramp because, frankly, it's just gotten too deep. So we've kind of come back down this way. But no rain, as you can see currently. The winds, according to the First Alert Weather app, about 30 to 35 miles per hour. You take a look, you can see the palm trees blowing in the wind, as one would expect during a hurricane. You can see some of the signs also just kind of blowing a little bit. And out here in the water, you see the pontoon boat. The pontoon boat doing just fine, as one would imagine, but you see the top of it, well, that's seen better days. Some sea life has also made its way here. Over here, we saw some fish before. They were coming down the road. Be that as it may, not so bad right now. We're going to get in the car. We're going to do some driving, head north, and see what more we can find from Idalia. Reporting live, Ben Becker, Action News Jax.
All right, our team of meteorologists now covering that tornado warning. Let's get back to them right now, guys.
Yeah, we got an important warning to get to here. Here's Chief Meteorologist Mike Burrish with us as well. We are tracking for you here what could be a tornado there in St. Simon's Island and approaching the northern end of Brunswick right now. This is that tornado warning. This is our First Alert Storm Analyst, Mike. Radar on the left, what you're used to seeing, and velocity data on the right side, and here's that hook right
Impressive
there.
cell now.
Impressive.
I think we would all agree. Corey, Trevor, Garrett.
Highest velocity I've seen this morning.
It matches up with everything that defines a tropical tornado. So St. Simon's Island under the gun right now, tracking north-northwest. Let's go ahead. This is First Alert Storm Analyst. There's our debris tracker. Again, this shows us when and if there's debris being lofted into the atmosphere, Garrett. Not really seeing anything that's obvious here.
Not obvious yet, and it could take a radar scan or two to get that, since it's just now coming on land. And we haven't seen any reports so far of a confirmed tornado. We're seeing winds still of about 70 miles per hour on First Alert Doppler HD, right about where that circulation is. This is still the correlation coefficient, but let's turn that back to velocity if we could. There we go. Right there where that brightest yellow pixel
right
is,
here
to the left of the Saint.
Yeah.
That is where we're seeing 70 mile per hour winds move off to the north and to the west. So this is the strongest signature we've seen.
Let's track this, Corey.
And yeah, on max 1, we'll go back to max number 1 here behind us, where we saw earlier on that webcam this coming in off the Atlantic, what looked like it could have been a waterspout threading the needle in between Jekyll and St. Simon's Island. Here we are, Mike, as we track it for you here with this updated version. And now they're still keeping...
Now they've issued a new tornado warning for this band
Wow.
now coming into Brunswick. That now includes Brunswick. So this is a brand new tornado warning issued for Glynn County and Brunswick just in now within the last minute. So we've got 2 possible tornadic cells moving into Brunswick. This would be roughly 40 to 50 miles north of Jacksonville. These are continuing to race to the northwest. I want to track both of them. So let's go to the northern one in St. Simon's Island here. Corey, track this one north-northwest as we'll be moving across Highway 17 and I-95 in pretty short order. So here it is. This is going north-northwest, Garrett, and the numbers are 809 into Cypress Mills, 812 Brunswick Golden Isles, Needwood Middle School neighborhood at about 814, and Evelyn at 818. Now we'll take you south, and they've just updated
Continuing that tornado warning.
Okay, very good.
For
That's why-
St. Simon's Island north of Brunswick.
Okay, that's why it's flashing a little bit. This is the second tornado warning just issued now that does include Brunswick. This one will move to the north-northwest, and it's headed to near Brunswick within the next few minutes. These are moving quickly to the northwest, and again, it puts Jekyll Island in line at 8:13 for a possible tornado. Brunswick, there it is at 8:24. That would be in 16 minutes. Could be a little bit faster than that. And Arco at 8:28. So people in Brunswick, St. Simon's Island need to be alert. Boy, that's an impressive looking signature. May not be a tornado on the ground, but boy, it sure looks like it. Moving just east of Brunswick and a little north of St. Simon's Island, Garrett.
Yeah, so this one, the one that we were just talking about, I'm trying to figure out what that exactly is for, because I think that one's expiring at 8:15, and so that may have been just an update to the one for Brunswick, since that cell was so close. Because there's not anything rotating really right here.
We don't see rotation here. There's some strong storms.
Hard to tell.
But yeah, it is hard to tell.
But the one that most significant, we'll watch that cell down
Something
east
farther offshore we
Yeah,
need to
right here.
watch.
There we go. Yep.
But as we look in real time here, we're seeing the St. Simons and now Brunswick, north of Brunswick there, be the most intense storm.
So once again, tornado warning in effect for Glynn County, near Brunswick and east of Brunswick. As this cell now moves, this possible tornado moves just a little north and northeast of Brunswick. Let's widen the view just briefly here real quick, Corey, and get to that eye wall, because you guys were mentioning just a minute ago that an extreme wind warning has been issued for Suwannee County, right?
Yes.
Which is just west of Lake City. So there's the eye wall coming ashore. It looks like it's turned a little north in the last couple of minutes, maybe the last 15 minutes or so.
Agree with that.
That's a really extreme wind getting ready to cross Interstate 10 west of Lake City, and this is where the extreme wind warning is in effect. So if you happen to have travel plans this morning, you haven't changed those plans west on Interstate 10, you need to change them right now and delay travel on I-10 west until that eye wall has passed Interstate 10, which will be over the next 1 to 2 hours or so. For Duval County and Metro Jacksonville, well, we still do have bands of rain moving in. Some of them are quite heavy. You can see this moving up into Duval County right now. So heavy rainfall here. We just had a 46-mile-per-hour wind gust reported in Mayport about 45 minutes ago with one of these bands that moved in and quick hitting. The winds come up in a hurry, and then you get a little bit of a lull before the next band moves in. So this one coming into downtown now will have at least 30 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts, a burst of heavy rain, and then you can see here another break. So we're zooming in the south side of Jacksonville, the Buckman Bridge extending west to around Baldwin, heavy rainfall. Another one, and this is a cell we'll watch carefully for rotation south of Middleburg in Clay County. Middleburg, you'll be in a downpour and a pretty strong wind gust here soon. This is now velocities. Widespread
high winds.
Yeah. If we take a look at the numbers, the values on here, Corey, what are we? Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Okay. There's some 60 to 70 mile per hour winds estimated. That could be a little bit elevated because the radar antenna is going up a little bit here into the atmosphere, but safe to say we may have damaging winds within this band that extends southward to west of Palatka, very near Interlaken now, and you can see how these are all moving to the north and to the northeast, Garrett.
Let's go to max number 2. Max number 2 here. We have our exclusive First Alert neighborhood weather stations here showing wind gusts. This is in Keystone Heights, in the Keystone Heights area. We're seeing them nearly 50 miles per hour. Thank you to Southeast 35th Street, your neighborhood weather station right there, reporting 49 mile per hour gusts.
Right, and there's Southeast 6th.
Yep.
Looks like that, I can't tell what.
Maybe?
Lane, I think maybe. Very near the same area. It's just in the Keystone Heights area, so this is southwestern Clay County. Then you get into Putnam County here. We're widening it out just a little bit. And then as we go up the line, Corey is going up the line, and you get into more weather stations here, more populated area. But you can see that the winds aren't near as strong. So it's that one band that extends from Jacksonville southward into Clay County right now that the strongest winds. And we are getting Tempest in our Tempest neighborhood weather stations here around 50 mile per hour wind gusts without down trees and power lines, and locally there may be gusts 60, 65, even 70 miles per hour, Garrett.
All right, so back to max number 1. We go to First Alert Doppler HD, and we will be continuing to track. This one is not in effect anymore.
Correct.
So this is the one we concentrate
Jekyll
on.
Island is not under a tornado warning.
Yes.
Okay.
And the one that's outside of our viewing area, but this one's also showing some signs of rotation if you're watching
right
this
in here.
Darien.
Offshore. Yeah.
But that's the one that's approaching I-95 right now in Glynn County. We're seeing that cell still under a tornado warning there, and it'll go just south of Georgia State Road 99.
Moving to the northwest, these are moving 30 to 35 miles per hour at least, if not even a little bit faster, so they're not around for long. There's the rotation that continues to have a tendency to shift a little bit north as it's moving toward the northwest. So it's kind of a north-northwest movement.
Yeah, and we haven't gotten any reports yet of any damage from St. Simons Island or anything like that so far that we realize, but we did see what looked like it could have been at least a lowering of a funnel, if not it was a waterspout coming in over between Jekyll and St. Simons Island with this active tornado warning. But there is that rotation there east of 17 heading up to the north and west. This would cross I-95 there north of Brunswick, north of the airport there on 17, in between 17 and 95, the northern half of the county. And so this is that active tornado warning we have now for a few more minutes. Actually, it's unless they extend it, it's until
over in a minute.
15 and over in a minute. So we'll see what they do.
Just real quickly, again, we're continuing to track this possible tornado crossing I-95. Real quick here, Corey, let's go back to the eye wall because I have a report from the eye wall. We've got a storm chaser here that's messaging with me in Salem, Florida, which is a little tiny town in that eye wall. He has just measured a wind gust to 86 miles per hour. So that's very near the eye wall now, little town of Salem, near the Big Bend, where Idalia came ashore a little more than 20 to 30 minutes ago officially, according to the National Hurricane Center, at about 7:50 this morning. And look at all the lightning in there. This is a very intense, borderline violent eye wall, northern part of the eye wall now as it moves toward I-10. This is going to be really intense, but my storm spotter saying a wind gust to 86 miles per hour. Notice on the underside, it's kind of getting eaten away. We talked about this multiple times the last few days. That's what happens with landfalling hurricanes. Drier continental air gets wrapped around that storm, and it starts to eat away at the rain on the bottom part of that, and it's out ahead of that slot of dry air where we're getting these heavy bands of storms, any of these capable of producing damaging winds and a quick tornado.
That's right about there. Just looking at a quick.
You found Salem?
In Taylor County here,
Okay,
right
good.
about here is where that storm report was coming from.
Okay, and he, as I said, measured a wind gust to 86 miles per hour. That'll be moving across I-10 west of Lake City over just the next hour or so.
So it's 8:15. That is the expiration time of our tornado warning for Glynn County, and now that has been allowed to expire, and we're going to be continuing to watch cells like this just offshore. But right now, as of this moment, we do not have an active tornado warning as that cell now crosses I-95 north of Brunswick.
A tornado watch does remain in effect for the entire area, including Metro Jacksonville. All of northeast Florida, southeast Georgia means conditions are favorable for tornadoes at any time. We'll bring them to you immediately here in the First Alert Weather Center. We're fully staffed with Garrett, Corey Simon at the First Alert Weather Center at the island there, so to speak. We have Trevor Gibbs in the Weather Center along with Maritza Ross monitoring the cameras and the traffic too. We'll keep you updated around the clock. In the meantime, back to the news desk.
All right, a lot of important information our meteorologists have given you over the past 40 minutes or so. And also we want to mention now is the time to download the Action News Jax news and weather apps. They're available there. If your power goes out, you'll still be able to stream our coverage to track Idalia and get important news updates. All you have to do is scan that QR code on your screen and follow the instructions. Now over to Chandler.
All right, Phil. And speaking of power outages, we are monitoring those for you. And I do have a video of a specific power outage I want you to see. This is in Perry, Florida here. So let me play this for you if I can bring this up in full. Look, this is an intersection, and I want you to look at this Hardee's right here. That's a flash of lightning, and then there's another flash of lightning, and look, no longer any power here at this Hardee's and this intersection, and there are people still on the roads, but look at just how violent those winds are too, and you can see even the water spraying across, and I'm hoping that those people are getting to a safe place and maybe heading home. But I also want to show you this. This is flooding that is closer to Holmes Beach. The police department is keeping a close eye on people here in this neighborhood because look how high that water is over here on the mailboxes, and even, of course, looks to appear to be high into the garage as well. And then this last video, and this one, we've got to be honest, this is what you should not be doing right now. You should not be riding your bicycle through water or flood waters. You just don't know what's in there, and especially with lightning and these power outages, you just don't want to take that risk. You don't want to put yourself in jeopardy. You don't want to put our first responders in jeopardy who would have to come and rescue you. Of course, we're continuing to get more video across Florida as Hurricane Idalia has made landfall, Phil.
Well, look at some heavy flooding here in Cedar Key. That happened right after 6 o'clock this morning. Officials are saying power completely out in that area. Hurricane Idalia made landfall near Keaton Beach in Florida's Big Bend as a Cat 3 storm with those sustained winds of 125 miles an hour. Now, here you can see a number of trees down and debris blowing through that area. Also in Cedar Key, we understand that this makes Idalia the strongest storm to make landfall in the Big Bend region in more than 125 years. So this is an area that they don't see hurricanes all too often. Right now, Lake City is bracing for the impact of Hurricane Idalia, at least not hurricanes that strong, I should say.
Right, exactly. Action News Jax Robert Grant is live in Lake City. Robert, it was lightly raining when we were with you earlier. Man, has it picked up now that we're with you.
Completely different picture now, Chandler. Dry, not a lot of wind about an hour ago. Well, now you see some of those strong bands moving through here, both rain and wind as well. Yesterday, we were talking to some of the folks here in downtown Lake City, some of the businesses along this area who've taken some of the precautions, putting out sandbags in case of any flash flooding in this area, but also wind, of course, is the major concern, as we've been talking about, and the First Alert Weather Team has told you. That's why some businesses have boarded up here, and you can see pretty empty in downtown Lake City, so folks staying home as they should. And I did just get a post from the Columbia County Sheriff's Office that I want to pull up for you guys and kind of read what they're saying. So emergency management has advised the Sheriff's Office that Hamilton and Suwannee counties are going to be placed possibly under an extreme wind warning this morning between 7 and 9 a.m., so still about 40 minutes to go there. There's the potential for some of those sustained winds of more than 100 miles per hour and the effects felt here in Columbia County as well. And as we've been standing out here in downtown Lake City, there's also been several tree service crews driving around, as well as Public Works, as the Sheriff's Office keeping an eye on everything. Yesterday, Governor Ron DeSantis was also out here. He mentioned some of the mobile homes. Columbia County has some very rural areas, lots of trees. With some of those high winds, that's something to be concerned for. That's why they've opened up 5 emergency shelters across the county and here in Lake City. But you can look up at some of the trees around here just in downtown at the square. You can see that wind moving through, blowing some of the branches there, and those bands of wind pushing through, and the rain on the ground as well. You can kind of see it really visually how it moves through like that. But we've been picking up every, I'd say 5 minutes or so, you kind of get those strong gusts, something that we'll continue to monitor as well. Right now, Columbia County has nearly 10% of customers without power. Just yesterday, we were at the fairgrounds, which is a staging area for several of the crews. FPL, Florida Power and Light, they've got utility crews there on standby as well, waiting so that they can be dispatched out to help anybody in need when it comes to those power outages as well. We'll continue to be here and bring you the very latest, but for now, with local coverage you can count on in Lake City, I'm Robert Grant, Action News Jax.
Be safe out there. Speaking of those power outages, let's track them for you right now, shall we? So we're keeping an eye on Columbia County. Over 7,000 customers seeing outages. We are also looking at Clay County. Here's a map for you. 163 customers without power. And in Duval, currently no power outages. But again, now is the time. You want to download the First Alert Weather app and the Action News Jax mobile app in case you do lose power. And let's go ahead and send things over to Maritza Ross, who is tracking things in the First Alert Traffic Center this morning.
We've been watching a lot of cameras throughout the state of Florida and even in southeast Georgia. We'll take it over to Taylor County, where, of course, that eye has made landfall. And now we're looking at some very strong winds, the strongest winds. This indication right here in the rain that you see in the red and the orange, that's right there just north of Perry. This is a live look from our Florida 511 cameras of just kind of the winds and the rain and that combination just really brushing through this area. This is on US 19 and Ash Street. You can kind of see just all the movement that's going on there. And of course, just the haze from the wet, the water, and of course, the very strong winds that I believe were gusting at 40, 45. Perhaps even more, as just some of that data just comes through as we speak. So as we take it over to just kind of expanding the map here, we're seeing those winds really just pick up throughout all of northeast Florida and southeast Georgia in our area. So as we take a look at Duval, I just want to remind you guys that Jacksonville Transportation Authority has suspended services today. Obviously, we're seeing some very rough conditions now. That's the latest from the Safe Touch Security First Alert Traffic Center.
Right. Thank you, Maritza. Our team coverage of the storm continues now in Amelia Island and Nassau County, and that's where we find Action News Jax Jake Stofan. Jake, how's the wind and the rain there? It looks somewhat calm right now.
It is pretty calm. I mean, there's a couple of gusts, but nothing too serious. I mean, you can see the palm trees whipping around a bit. If you take a look at this little estuary here off of Kingsley Creek, you can occasionally see the wind sort of whip through the water, which I'm sure is, a pretty good indication for anybody who's got their boat parked here. Of course, this is only sort of the beginning of this, and we are anticipating these winds to continue picking up. And, there's even been some tornadic activity. I've been listening to what Burrish has been saying just a little bit north of here. So certainly some things to keep an eye on. We're heading out to Fernandina Beach, and we'll be giving you a closer look at sort of the Atlantic coastline here in just a few minutes. Also coming up later, I spoke with the Lieutenant Governor just a few minutes ago, and we'll be hearing from her on what the state is planning on doing in terms of emergency response, especially for those hardest hit areas. Hopefully things stay calm here and they don't have to be sent to Amelia Island. For local coverage you can count on live in Nassau County, I'm Jake Stofan. Action News Jax.
All right, Jake, thank you. We continue our team coverage tracking the impacts of Idalia here, where Jacksonville's Riverside is no stranger to flooding. And we are giving you our first look at Riverside this morning. Our Action News Jax Megan Moriarty is there for us. Megan, this is the first time we are talking to you coming out live this morning. So how is it looking there so far? Looks like we maybe lost Megan for the time being. We'll come right back to her. Of course, we are continuing to bring you team coverage across several points all over Jacksonville and even Lake City. We had our Ben Becker and Crystal River too, so we'll continue our team coverage in just a moment with her. But until then, we do want to let you know about some different school closings. Of course, maybe you're watching back at home with your family right now here on Action News Jax. Let's let you know about a few of those, Phil.
That's right. We got a few right here to talk to you about. And also some families in vulnerable homes should consider evacuating before the storm arrives. There's a look at the school storm closures there. Today and tomorrow in Baker, Union, Putnam, Duval, Camden, and Ware counties, all those schools are closed. And just today, the other schools in Greene are closed right now. Now, we want to also tell you that families living in, say, mobile homes, some boats, some older homes, flood-prone areas along the river and low-lying areas in some of the orange counties that we're going to show you that map in just a while are under evacuation orders and encouraged to leave, too. That's Baker, Bradford, Nassau, Putnam, St. Johns, Union counties in Florida, and Zone A in Camden County. There's also a voluntary evacuation order for Charlton County, Georgia. Now, we're talking about this right here. This is public schools in Northeast Florida and Southeast Georgia. They're closed today, and the reason for that is because they had to open up some shelters. In fact, they opened up shelters in the blue that we just went over before, but some local schools are now operating as hurricane shelters. This is video from Landmark Middle School in Jacksonville. This morning, crews brought in, you saw those cots and some pet crates and other supplies and trucks in order to outfit certain gyms in this area that are opening up in order to house the people who need some type of shelter. We're continuing here to find out just how many people are in these 6 shelters all across Jacksonville. Chandler.
All right, Phil, looks like we have Megan now, so let's go back out to her. She's part of our team of reporters tracking Hurricane Idalia this morning. Megan, this is our first time getting a look at where you are. I see what appears to be some flooding or storm surge just behind you there.
And Chandler, it's very minor right now, but I would say in the last 20 minutes or so, we really saw kind of these waves here from the St. Johns River starting to get a little bit more rough. You can see this very, very minor flooding here in Memorial Park. We're in the Riverside area. None of it's making it to the streets or impacting roadways right now, but you can definitely see this coming over the wall here as it's starting to pick up in the water. So very rough waves out there. It's a little bit windy as well. Our First Alert weather app saying we're seeing about 25-mile-per-hour winds, so not too bad in the area, and we're not seeing any rain just yet, just having this water from the St. Johns River kind of splashing on us right now, and you can just see how rough it is out there. We are expecting that to pick up as time goes on, as Riverside is a very flood-prone area, but so far, no roadways impacted from what we're seeing. And then if you look over into Memorial Park, you can see those waves kind of going over this wall here, but not too much impact to the actual park. Again, not really flooding or anything like that, but it is really rough and kind of spilling over the wall here. Like I mentioned, wind kind of picking up a little bit. You can see if you look at the trees up here, if we want to pan up just ever so slightly, First Alert weather app, our Action News Jax First Alert weather app showing about 25-mile-per-hour winds. And so this little grassy area that we have down here, a little bit of water kind of starting to pile up. I'm not going to step in that, but I would probably say it would go a little bit over my ankle if we were to go in there. And we're right here on the St. Johns, so of course that water is expected to kind of spill over here, and the wind is picking up as well. Nothing too crazy just yet, but we are expecting to see a little bit more impact as the day goes on, and we'll continue to update you and show you the conditions that we're seeing here. For local coverage, you can count on live in Riverside, Megan Moriarty, Action News Jax.
And I'm First Alert meteorologist Gary Bedenbaugh here at 8:29. We are tracking that Hurricane Idalia that has made landfall as a Category 3 hurricane after briefly becoming a Cat 4 early this morning. There's that landfall point. And in Taylor County, moving off to the northeast over Interstate 10 and well west of Jacksonville, the latest forecast track still has it going over Waycross and into Blackshear. For you in Pierce County, I want you to know that the winds are coming here this afternoon. So something to keep in mind. That's when we want you to be really paying attention to this. Obviously, we'll have you covered here, of course, on Action News Jax. And we're seeing in Columbia County 77 degrees, that east wind at 19. This WeatherStem camera doing pretty good right now at the sheriff's office. The Riverside camera on the First Alert Skycam network here from downtown bopping a little bit. We're having 20 to 30 and even 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts in spots in northeast Florida here. But there's First Alert Doppler HD. That eye wall now moving over I-10, the northernmost eye wall. There's I-75. There's Valdosta, Georgia. And as it's gone inland, it's taken a little bit more of a northern jog here. So something we'll watch to see if that trend does actually go over you in Waycross. Nonetheless, you're going to be pretty close to the eye there here over the next several hours into the early afternoon. Jacksonville, we're seeing a band of rain coming through. We've seen gusts of 40 plus at Jacksonville Beach. But again, there is that eye wall going inland through the morning west of Lake City. Now still, look at that lightning showing up south of I-10 in the eye wall. But we're going to be tracking these showers here moving off to the north and east. We've had several tornado warnings, none in effect right now. An extreme wind warning, though, in effect for Suwannee County from the National Weather Service here in Jacksonville. So if you happen to be watching us there on our app or on the internet or any streaming devices, you want to be inside and sheltering in place right now as that eye wall moves through and those high winds. So hour by hour, we continue to see kind of these rounds of showers and even a rumble of thunder there near the eye wall, perhaps near Waycross by 1 to 2 o'clock or so. And then continuing off to the north and east will still be pretty breezy. And we've seen some wind gusts already today. With more on that, let's go to meteorologist Trevor Gibbs.
Yeah, Garrett, several wind gusts already this morning in excess of 39 miles per hour. So that tropical storm intensity here. Jacksonville International, the highest thus far at 33, but Mayport gusted to 45 miles per hour. Fernandina Beach almost there at 37, Palatka 33. Lake City, as of the latest observation, 45 miles per hour. We'll likely see some higher gusts over the next couple of hours. Brunswick nearing 40 miles per hour. Waycross at about 21. I know Lake Butler also gusted to around 41 miles per hour. And these come and go in bursts as these rain bands pivot through. That's what picks up the wind speed, and then the wind goes down and then it will come right back up as you see the next band of rain. Here's a look at our hour-by-hour sustained wind forecast as we go through the rest of the day. The most intense stretch of wind will stretch from Lake City north to Waycross and then ultimately to Blackshear. This is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Still looking at some sustained winds near 30 miles per hour for northeastern Florida, which is manageable for much of the metro area of Jacksonville. Point south of there, we will still see a few sporadic tree and power issues, but we can deal with 20 to 30 mile per hour winds. More serious winds sustained up from Folkestone to Nahunta, Blackshear, and Waycross, and even along the coast, we're going to continue to see those strong wind gusts through 5 o'clock. The sustained winds at 25. Now let's talk about the wind gusts. That's your intermittent burst of stronger wind through the rest of this morning. We will have those wind gusts above 70 miles per hour for possibly parts of the western suburbs of Lake City, western Columbia County, up to Waycross by this afternoon. Here's 12 o'clock today. Wind gusts anywhere from 60 to 70 miles per hour for Waycross, 50 to 55 for Nahunta, and still could see on the backside of the circulation winds that'll be pretty strong even though it's dry. And there's actually some meteorology behind that, is that dry air gets mixed down all the way to the ground, and that can bring some stronger winds to the surface. So later this afternoon for northeastern Florida, you might be even seeing a few peaks of sunshine, but it's still going to be rather windy with some wind gusts in excess of 40 miles per hour, but they will gradually wind down through this evening. And again, the biggest and most intense stretch of wind will be in our western tier of counties. For that, with some pretty cool video right now, I'll toss it over to Maritza Ross in the First Alert Traffic Center.
Yeah, you know, as we've been kind of mentioning, just kind of those strong winds that are coming in onto I-10. I've been kind of pulling up all of these traffic cameras, and we did have some fallen trees, some large trees on I-10 in Madison County. Now, a lot of our cameras along I-10 are actually going out right now. So as we take a look at just where that eye wall is, it is just to the south, but you see all this deep red, rain, wind, all of that, as Trevor mentioned, anywhere from 40s up to 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So we are seeing just a lot of debris that is flowing all over I-10, and it's pretty much going to continue into Madison County, heading up to Suwannee as well. That's the latest from the Safe Touch Security First Alert Traffic Center.
Thank you, Maritza. Our coverage continues now near Lake City. That's an area our First Alert weather team expects to be hit hard today, especially with those strong wind gusts. Action News Jack's Alexa